Good morning everyone and welcome to the Cabinet meeting. I'm Councillor Amanda Hopgood, Leader of Durham County Council and Chair of this meeting. The meeting is being broadcast live through our YouTube channel, but before we commence with today's formal business, I'd like to cover some of the housekeeping issues for us all to follow. If you could please switch off or make silent your mobile phones and keep microphones switched off at all time unless invited to speak by myself as the Chair. When invited to speak, please switch on the microphone nearest to you and introduce yourself. So with that, we'll move on to the agenda. Item 1 is public questions. We haven't received any public questions for today's meeting. Item 2 is minutes. Can I have a mover and seconder, please, to the minutes of the meetings held on the 12th of July, the special meeting on the 26th of July and the 29th of August, please? Have a mover?
Thank you, Chair. I duly move those minutes of the meetings held on the 12th of July, the 26th of July and the 29th of August.
And the seconder, please.
Councillor Richard Bell, I second those minutes, Chair.
Can we all agree that the minutes are a correct record? Agreed. Okay, I can confirm therefore the minutes are agreed. Item 3, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations from members present this morning? No. So item 4 is the Q1 2023-24 Performance Management Report. If I can ask Steve Evans, Head of Corporate Affairs, to present the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Steve Evans, Head of Corporate Affairs. The report sets out detailed progress towards the targets which are set out in the Council plan that was agreed in February 23. The report is based on data up to the end of June 23, at the end of Q1. In line with Cabinet's request to make the performance of the Council more transparent, you'll note some changes to the report over previous versions, with the addition of a number of service-based performance dashboards. This provides a greater depth to the report and also a much clearer golden thread between the actual service delivery on the ground and the golden thread through to the priorities of the Council set out in the Council plan. We've attached a copy of the old style report at Appendix 3 for your information, so you can cross-reference between the two. The report also is more consistent with best value standards that the Department for Levelling Up Housing and Communities have just finished consulting on over the summer. And as you would expect, the report aligns itself to characteristics of a well-performing council as defined by the Department. Just a few words on performance. It remains strong across the whole organisation, both in terms of progress against the strategic objectives and also operational service delivery. And as members will recognise, that's quite a considerable achievement given inflationary factors and cost of living crisis and the impact of those on communities, businesses and our own services. The main performance report is attached at Appendix 2. The key elements sit in the executive summary at the start of that report, and the detailed chapters contain more information which are based around the Council priorities of our economy, our environment, our people, our communities and our Council. And just a couple of words, the onward journey from this Cabinet meeting is into scrutiny, where scrutiny will have the opportunity to go through the report and ask further questions. They'll also have the opportunity to comment on the new style report, and we would look to try and incorporate any comments where appropriate into the next version, which will be produced for Q2. The recommendations are set out in paragraph 11, and that's that Cabinet note the report and its new format. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Steve. Can I thank Steve and his team for this detailed and comprehensive update on our performance against the targets and actions set out in the Council plan. The enhancements to the report via the inclusion of a range of dashboards for key services is an important addition. The improved transparency relating to how well our services are delivering for the people of County Durham is something that this administration is championing. Notably, this Council delivers a strong performance alongside a sharp delivery focus for our service users, communities and partners. This is despite the headwinds created by the impact of the current cost of living squeeze. My Cabinet colleagues may wish to highlight particular aspects of this report associated with their own portfolios, but there are a number of areas which, as Leader of the Council, I'd like to highlight this morning. In terms of areas where we're performing well, I'm pleased to note that in relation to our stated priorities on our economy, We continue to promote the county as a year-round tourist destination through both national and international marketing campaigns. Latest data shows tourism contributed more than £1 billion to our local economy for the first time, above the target of just over £760 million. There were almost 18 million visitors, which is above a million more than targeted, resulting in nearly 12,000 people employed in tourism across our county. Linked to this, we're also continuing to invest in our cultural events programme. So, for example, and during Q1, despite the weather, over 28,000 people attended Bishop Auckland Food Festival. And in line with commitments relating to housing and employment land, we determined 91.2% of major planning applications within the 13-week deadline, exceeding the 90% target and placing us in the top quartile nationally. With regards to our environment, in order to reduce carbon emissions within the Council's operations, we are delivering a range of initiatives, including acquiring 20 electric minivans, which will save 3 tonnes of carbon emissions per year. Our people, caseloads are improving, and targeting recruitment activity over the spring has been successful, with the service hopeful to fill many of the current vacancies that we had in the autumn. The Stronger Families programme continues to exceed expectations, with 80% of the annual target for families to achieve significant and sustained outcomes completed by Q1. And the rate of adult admissions to permanent residential and nursing care for adults aged 65 plus is better than the Better Care Fund target, and numbers entering permanent care continue to be lower than pre-pandemic levels. The percentage of older people still at home 91 days after discharge from hospital also continues to be high. Combined, these indicators demonstrate progress to meet our aim of maintaining the independence of people for longer. Within our communities, the final figures for net homes completion reported in the financial year 2022-23 has been updated to reflect a number of sites that had completed but had not yet been recorded. This brings the final year-end total for homes completed for 22-23 to 1,551. This is 19%, or 243 homes, above the target of 1,308 included in the local plan and housing strategy. Additionally, a number of large recently commenced schemes are expected to complete later in the year, making even further progress in this important area. And in the first quarter of this year, we saw 64 empty homes were brought back into use as a result of local authority intervention at the year end, exceeding the profile target of 50. And we continue to tackle fly tipping through proactive action against perpetrators. Our council, so the third-party expenditure reached £701 million during 2022-23, £57 million more than the previous year. In line with our commitments to grow local jobs and support the local economy, a significant proportion of that spend was put into local businesses. 46% was spent across the county and a further 24% across the wider North East region. Importantly, £551 million was private sector spend relating to our major capital programmes, which are delivering economic growth and better services for local people, including the Story at Mount Oswald and internally delivered projects that require significant private spend. Q1 collection rates for business rates and council tax were consistent with previous years, and we collected almost £1 million of additional business rate payments compared to last year. However, there are indications that more residents and businesses are struggling due to the cost of living crisis. Business rates summonses are 12% higher, and 10,640 council tax accounts are now subject to recovery action. We are continuing to monitor in-year trends and patterns and offer flexible and supportive payment options which ensure payments are affordable and sustainable. And we are also one of the minority of councils who have prioritised and still offer a local council tax reduction scheme to support those in need. Whilst reporting many positives, the report does also highlight areas that require our attention, where for a range of issues our performance has not been what we would have liked it to be. In terms of areas requiring attention, where I know action is and will continue to be taken, I would note just the following. The number of children in care continues to increase in line with national and regional trends. The North East has the highest level of children in care in England, and County Durham remains the 5th lowest rate in the North East based on latest benchmarks. Underlying growth in the number of children in care is continuing, but is accelerating further due to the increase in unoccupied asylum-seeking children placed in County Durham as part of national relocation plans. Requests for education, health and care plans continue to increase, and this, alongside the shortage of educational psychologists, is a national problem. The service are reviewing the plans to build capacity and meet increased demands and manage new requests to ensure children are supported with quality provision in an appropriate setting. And the timeliness of the completion of Care Act assessments for adult social care service continues to be low in comparison to levels seen prior to the pandemic. The Adult Social Care Service is introducing new technology to support social workers to complete the assessments in a timely manner. There are a range of other areas to note, which are summarised in the executive summary of the main performance report in Appendix 2, paragraphs 4 to 62, and greater detail is contained within the respective chapters and dashboards. With that, I propose that Cabinet, in line with recommendations set out in paragraph 12, that Cabinet note the report. It doesn't require a seconder, but is there any other Cabinet members who would like to speak to the report, please? Yeah, Councillor Wilkes.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to highlight the continuing positive results in our neighbourhoods and climate change area and applaud all of our officers for the work they're doing. One such example I'd like to give is our fly tipping rate, which is now not only the lowest in the region, but just a fifth of that in some council areas and around half the national rate too. This compares to it being 40% higher under the previous Labour administration. It's our policies to reform our neighbourhoods warden service and get tougher on these criminals, which is having a positive impact. But there's now scrapping the more than 50% discounts on fines that Labour gave to these criminals. We are cranking up our campaign and will further review fines now that the government is allowing us to increase fly tipping fines further. This is proof that the joint administration is making a huge difference. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the report? Okay, can I ask Cabinet to note the report? Thank you. Item 5 is the forecast of revenue and capital outturn 2023-24, period to the 30th of June 2023, and update on progress towards achieving MTFP. I'm convinced that Mr Darby makes these reports titles as long as is humanly possible. So can I ask Paul Darby, Corporate Director of Resources, to present the report, please?
Morning. Thank you, Chair. Paul Darby, Corporate Director Resources. Last year, Cabinet will remember that our financial performance was dominated by high levels of inflation, leading to the need to increase our base budget significantly in the current year, which causes some quite difficult challenges in balancing this year's budget. Without the increase in government funding we received as part of the local government finance settlement, alongside the council tax increases we had to apply, the council would have been in a perilous financial predicament this year. That said, and despite members agreeing £12.4 million worth of savings to weave into the 23-24 budget, the council still had to utilise £10 million of its reserves to help balance the budget this year. The Q1 forecasts in this report factor in a circa £590,000 overspend on fostering allowances, following the national increase in allowances announced by the government in late February, which was too late for our budget setting. They also factor in the 23-24 pay offer made by the local government employers. Whilst not yet settled, this would once again see a flat £1,925 pay award to all of our staff. On average, this would increase the council's pay bill by 6.5%, which is higher than the 5% budget provision, and if agreed would result in a £3.7 million overspend in the current year and an ongoing budget pressure into 24-25. Our leisure centre income is forecast to be £1.65 million under budget, with £650,000 of this being linked to the closure of facilities, whilst refurbishment works are undertaken as part of the Leisure Transformation Programme, and £1 million being related to post-COVID usage levels being below budgeted levels once again. Similarly, at Aycliffe Secure Centre, post-COVID operating levels are resulting in a £720,000 forecast shortfall against the budgeted income levels, which is less than the £1.4 million shortfall we experienced last year. A major issue highlighted in the report, which is also a key factor in the 22-23 outturn we considered at Cabinet in July, is the net cost to the Council from a shortfall in housing benefit subsidy we received from the Government for supported housing and temporary accommodation housing benefit payments. The forecast shortfall this year is £3.2 million. These budget pressures are largely recurrent and were therefore factored into the MTFP 14 forecast we considered at Cabinet in July, as adjustments will have to be made to the base budget next year. On a more positive note, our energy budgets are forecast to underspend by around £1.4 million this year, as energy prices have fallen more rapidly than was previously envisaged. In overall terms, our service groupings are forecasting a net overspend of £5.678 million to the year end. The most significant overspend relates to children and young people services, where our looked after children costs are once again forecast to exceed budget, though there are some encouraging signs that the position has stabilised during the quarter. This overspend will need to be picked up corporately, as CYPS do not have a cumulative cash limit reserve, and there is also an £868,000 forecast overspend for regeneration, economy and growth. These overspends are partially offset by small underspends within other service groupings. Details of the cash limit forecast for each service are set out in sections 50 to 86 of the report. At section 46 are details of £464,000 worth of costs that we have treated as outside the cash limit and met corporately, funded from contingencies. In overall terms, there are around £15 million of overspends and underachievement of income targets that are being met corporately, offset by available general contingencies, a £4.146 million underspend in the capital financing budget as a result of decisions to delay necessary borrowing, an over-recovery in the investment income budget of £3.465 million, and a small underspend of £87,000 on corporate costs. The net position against our overall general fund is a forecast £17,000 underspend, which is a broadly balanced position. The forecast cash limit and general reserves position is set out at paragraph 48 in the report, where the cash limit reserves at the 31st of March 24 are forecast to be just under £5.4 million, an in-year reduction of just under £2.7 million, and the general reserve is forecast to be just over £26 million. The general reserve balance is forecast to be just above the minimum value set out in the reserves policy agreed by County Council in February. Appendix 4, as usual, contains details of all earmarked reserves and balances, and these are split between sums held corporately, grants and sums held on behalf of third parties, and sums held by services for specific purposes. Excluding schools, our earmarked reserves, including the cash limit reserves, are forecast to reduce by around £34 million to £162.4 million at the 31st of March, with around £25 million of this relating to external grant or sums held on behalf of others. £10 million of the in-year reduction relates to the use of the MTFP support reserve to balance this year's budget. Members will recall that excluding schools, our general earmarked and cash limit reserves reduced by just under £39 million last year, and taken together with this year's forecast, our reserves will have reduced by £73 million when we compare with the position at the 1st of April 22. The dedicated schools grant position is covered in sections of 100 to 118, which provides details of the forecast outturn against the dedicated schools grant for our maintained schools, including our high needs SEND allocations, our schools block and early years block allocations. The Q1 forecast for our maintained schools shows an improved position when compared to the original budget, where our schools were forecasting to require to use around £7.4 million of their reserves to balance the in-year financial position. This updated position based on the Q1 forecast shows that the use of reserves will be just over £4.5 million, a reduction or improvement of £2.8 million against the original budget, largely due to additional dedicated schools grant income that the Council expects to receive this year to help offset the teachers' pay award. The Q1 forecast for our high needs DSG shows a small underspend of around £245,000 in year. This is an area of the budget that continues to be monitored closely, and there will be further updates provided in future reports, particularly as the position on top of funding for mainstream schools is finalised and the backlog of AHCP assessments is addressed this month. The early years DSG forecast is therefore for the early years is broadly in line with the budget at Q1. The report does include details of the forecast capital programme outturn from paragraph 119 onwards, including details of revisions to the programme to reflect reprofiling from last year, slippage to future years, as well as the receipt of grant and other funding adjustments. Members will see that the total capital expenditure is estimated to be just over £321 million this year, and at the 30th of June we'd incurred £26.5 million of capital expenditure. Details of how the capital programme is to be financed are set out at paragraph 125, and in paragraphs 123 to 124 there are summary details of all the adjustments made to the capital programme that are proposed, which require Cabinet endorsement as part of agreeing the recommendations to this report. Members will see that at paragraphs 126 to 133 there are details of performance against the various prudential indicators agreed by Council when the 23-24 budget was set, and Cabinet can take comfort from the fact that the Council continues to fully comply with and operate within the Treasury management targets agreed by full Council. In terms of the collection funds, the report details the forecast outturn position for both the Council tax and the Business Rates Collection Fund, and these are set out from paragraph 134 onwards. The net position across both funds, after the receipt of Section 31 grant is included, is set out at paragraph 150 and shows a net surplus position of £2.79 million to the year end, with a forecast £1.7 million deficit on the Council Tax Collection Fund being offset by a forecast £4.5 million surplus on the Business Rates Collection Fund. The Council tax position is a combination of a slowdown in house building and new additions to the tax base, together with an increase in the incidence of local council tax reduction claims and other discounts and exemptions, which will necessitate a review of our MTFP forecasts in terms of future tax base growth. The business rates position reflects a review of the provision for appeals against the 2017 valuation list under the new check, challenge and appeal process following the 2023 valuation. Finally, Chair, at paragraphs 157 onwards, there's a summary of the progress achieved in terms of delivering the £12.4 million of savings plans that were factored into the 23-24 budget, and shows that at the 30th of June, 44% of the savings that have been factored into this year's budget have been delivered. There's an update of paragraph 161 onwards in terms of the HR implications from voluntary, compulsory and early retirements in year and since 2011. Chair, the recommendations are set out at paragraph 25. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Can I invite Councillor Richard Bell, Deputy Leader of the Council and Cabinet Portfolio Holder for Finance, to move the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Can I thank the officers for this comprehensive report and budget managers right across the Council for their continued focus on managing their areas. As the report acknowledges, we continue to operate in an environment of significant uncertainty and financial volatility, which is why we must always maintain a strong grip on our budgets. The net £5.7 million cash overspend position is largely as a result of a forecast £5.1 million children and young people's overspend and an £868,000 forecast overspend within our regeneration, economy and growth services, offset by modest underspends across other services. The overspend in children and young people services is mainly due to overspends in our looked after children placement budgets, and the overspending in region, economy and growth is primarily due to planning fee income being less than expected and overspends in transport and contracted services. The cash limit overspent in children and young people services, plus a range of other post-COVID and inflationary pressures that have been flagged by the Corporate Director, total around £15 million and have been met corporately. Funded from a combination of corporate contingencies and corporate underspends in our capital financing budgets and underspends against forecast energy budgets during the year. Excuse me. Thankfully, these corporate underspends have largely offset the position. The MTFP forecasts we considered in July have factored in the budget pressures detailed in this report, and there are a number of areas where we'll need to keep a careful eye on as we continue with our preparations for next year's budget. The Q1 forecasts show a broadly balanced position in year for the General Fund, with a small £17,000 contribution to our General Reserve in year. The estimated balance on the General Reserve at year end is in line with the minimum threshold we agreed at Council in February of around £26 million. Overall, excluding schools balances, Based on these forecasts, our earmarked reserves are forecast to fall by a further 34 million this year, as the administration continues to deliver and expend its earmarked reserves on the reasons for which they were set aside. The forecast cash limit, general reserves and earmarked reserves position for the Council, although forecast to reduce to year-end, still demonstrate strong financial resilience. Overall, our reserves are proportionate to our size as the 7th biggest unitary council in the country and represent less than 10% of our annual expenditure of £1.7 billion. I would also note that nearly 25 million, or 15% of the 162.4 million of earmarked reserves we hold, are sums held on behalf of other bodies. In terms of the collection fund forecast, the Q1 forecasts show an in-year deficit for the Council Tax Collection Fund and a surplus on the Business Rates Collection Fund, giving an overall net surplus position of 2.79 million. We will need to reflect on these forecasts in the collection funds in terms of the impact on the updated position we'll have in our MTFP forecasts. The amended capital programme, taking into account reprofiling from last year, new grants and contributions secured since we set the budget, and reprofiling into future years, results in a 23-24 capital programme of around £321 million this year. I fully support the amendments made to the capital budgets as outlined in the papers, and would draw members' attention to the tables which set out performance against the various prudential indicators agreed by Council in February last year. Considering our dedicated schools grant position, like the Council, our maintained schools have been operating in a period of significant inflationary pressures. A particular concern, much like the Council, was the pay award this year. At 6.5%, this was in excess of the budgeted position. However, the additional funding our schools will receive from government to help meet these budget challenges, together with forecast underspends against energy budgets in year, means that our schools are now forecast to draw a modest £4.5 million from their reserves this year, almost £3 million less than what was forecast. I cautiously welcome the forecast £245,000 underspend on our high needs DSG funding block, but will reserve judgment on this until Q2 and 3, once we have fully assessed the September intake and impact on top-up funding requests from our maintained schools. In terms of delivery of our medium-term financial plan savings this year, as at 30th of June, a quarter of the way through the financial year, we had delivered around 44% of the £12.4 million of savings required for this financial year. In summary, the forecasts include the impact of a range of demographic and inflationary-driven budget pressures outside of our control, which have placed pressures on the council budgets. Where these pressures will have a continuing impact into the next financial year, I am satisfied that we have made provision for these in the MTFP 14 forecasts we consider in July. And with that, Chair, I move the recommendations set out in this report at paragraphs 25A to J.
Thanks, Richard. Can I also add my thanks to those of Councillor Bell, to Paul and his team for this detailed report, and to all the budget managers across the Council for their continued effective management of their budgets in what are difficult circumstances. As I have said on many occasions, managing our budgets is difficult at the best of times due to the scale and complexity of the Council, but it is particularly challenging when there is a significant demand and volatility in our cost base. Pay and price inflation, particularly in the national pay awards, energy waste and transport-related costs, has placed unprecedented pressures on our budgets over the last 18 months. Once again, the pay offer made by the local government employers has significantly outstripped our budget provision in year, with a £3.7 million overspend expected this year. We will need to continue to keep a close eye on our looked after children placement budgets and on our tax-based forecasts in particular, based on the information contained in this report. Of course, many of the inflationary pressures we face are also faced by our schools, both maintained and academies. The Q1 forecasts set out in this report show a significant improvement in the forecast use of maintained schools balances this year, which has already been highlighted as reduced by 2.8 million to a forecast draw on reserves of 4.5 million in year, the result of action taken by our schools to manage the position in year, alongside additional funding from government to offset the pay award and underspending on energy budgets in year. The estimated retained balances held by our maintained schools is forecast to be 25.8 million at the year end. With that, I am happy to second the recommendations as set out in the report at paragraph 25 as outlined, including the amendments to the capital programme, which would see this council seeking to deliver an unprecedented £321.4 million of capital expenditure this year. Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the report? Okay. Can we agree the report and its recommendations? Agreed. Okay, I can confirm that the recommendations are agreed. Item 6 is the County Durham Partnership Update, the report from the Corporate Director for Neighbourhoods and Climate Change. If I could ask Alan Patrickson to present the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. This report is it's the regular roundup of activities of the County Durham Partnership and contains updates on the extensive work of the partnership boards and the AAPs across the county. The County Durham Partnership Board is currently preparing for its annual event in November, which this year will focus on the work of the Health and Wellbeing Board on the 10th anniversary of its creation. The board has also received updates from thematic leads for the County Durham Together Partnership, particularly highlighting working with communities, especially those in most need, to make sure that they're at the heart of decision making. The Health and Wellbeing Board, which is focused on the NHS Joint Forward Plan, and the Family Hubs and Start for Life programme, which is being delivered locally with funding from central government. The Partnership Forum earlier in the year focused on the 10 years of the Advice in County Durham Partnership, and also a county-wide workshop on the issue of antisocial behaviour to help inform the Safe Durham Partnership's antisocial behaviour strategy. The report also notes the outcomes of the Community Engagement Review, which commenced in March of last year and which sets out arrangements for the transition of the area action partnerships into community networks and local networks, providing a positive refresh to governance and operational arrangements for community engagement. The Fun with Food programme continues to deliver on its ambitions of providing activities across the school holidays with entertainment, education and play for children alongside a healthy food programme, which is particularly important for those at risk of holiday hunger. A wide range of activities has been delivered from council and community venues. The Safeguarding and other statutory partnership boards continue to deliver on their important agendas of providing assurance, support and challenge to maintain and increase standards of partnership governance and reporting. The Durham Safeguarding Children's Partnership is developing towards the new structure and model previously reported, and the Safeguarding Adults Partnership has extended its reach, particularly through its successful web offer and online training, covering a range of issues. The continuing work going on in the area of humanitarian support is highlighted in the report, as is the work of the Poverty Action Steering Group, which is now actively planning for the coming winter months, which can be difficult for so many. As previously, the remainder of the report outlines the work of the Thematic Partnership and AAPs in support of the County Durham Vision 2035 across the key themes of more and better jobs, people living long and independent lives, and connected communities. In each of these areas, the report highlights work being done at a county level, along with some shining examples of the extensive local delivery work facilitated through our area action partnerships. Too much to cover here in an introduction, but testament to the thriving partnership work across the county. Chair, the recommendation in paragraph 10 is for Cabinet to note the report.
Thanks, Alan. As Chair of the County Durham Partnership, I'm once again happy to be delivering this comprehensive and inspiring report on the partnership work going on around our county. The regular partnership updates show consistently how agencies and communities working together can deliver fabulous outcomes for people across the county, across all of our priorities, be that relating to health, economy, environment or community safety. The May Partnership meeting received an update on the important work of the County Durham Together Partnership, bringing together service providers and communities to ensure that we make the most of the skills, experience and resources available in the county to support everyone living healthy and fulfilling lives. In June, we held the Partnership Forum at the Hordern Together Partnership, where so much is being done to bring service providers and the community together for the benefit of everyone. Projects such as this are important trailblazers in our county that are gaining national recognition as good practice. The forum celebrated the 10th anniversary of the Advice in County Durham Partnership, which now has over 10 partners organisations as members. The no wrong door ethos of the partnership continues to help simplify the sometimes complex world of support networks, particularly in areas such as the cost of living crisis and universal credit migration, the latter having started rollout across County Durham in July this year. Our humanitarian support partnerships continue to support refugee families across the county, and recent commemoration of Ukraine Independence Day was a timely reminder of the terrible war that has now lasted over 18 months and the heavy toll it has taken on the country and its people. The Fun with Food programme continues to develop across school holidays, providing activities and healthy food for children across the county. The funding provided by the Department for Education has been supplemented and enhanced by numerous individual partnership projects across the county from AAPs and the voluntary sector. Our own County Durham Partnership event coming up in November will celebrate the 10th anniversary of Health and Wellbeing Boards and also 10 years since public health functions moved to local authorities from the NHS. As usual, the report also provides highlights from the work of our AAPs across the county, funding and delivering valuable initiatives at a local level and added value to communities and delivering positive outcomes. As ever, this report is full of important and inspiring projects, large and small, and as always, I recommend that everyone should read it to get a flavour of the extent of work being done across the county. The report's for Norton, but I believe Councillor Scott would like to speak to the report.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Councillor Elizabeth Scott, Portfolio Holder for Economy and Partnerships. Once again, I welcome this partnership update coming here to Cabinet, highlighting projects small and large across the county, Durham Partnership and beyond, and highlighting the contribution of our local agencies, volunteers, AAPs and our businesses in supporting their communities. Since the last of these update reports, we hit a significant milestone in our review of community engagement when I brought here to Cabinet a report setting out a positive and ambitious way forward for our AAPs. By 2025, they'll transition to community networks with a firm and revitalised focus on community engagement and with a strategic mandate and resources to match. There is still much work to do as we continue towards the new arrangements, and good progress continues to be made. From the very start of the process, the review sought to recognise the value of good partnership working and good community engagement, and to strengthen this going forward. There was some understandable uncertainty, which I understand, but the outcomes will speak to themselves, and I'd like to thank the staff team and partners for their hard work and commitment in getting us to this point. I'd also like to highlight the ongoing work of the development of the delivery plan associated with the Inclusive Economic Strategy. Partner workshops are planned, and the final plan will come back to our economic partnership in the near future. Finally, I'd like to draw attention to the work of our Safe Durham Partnership in two important areas. The first is the vital work of the partnership in delivering the government's antisocial behaviour action plan. We know antisocial behaviour is an important concern for our residents, and it's good to see the resources being brought forward to help in this regard. The second is the equally vital work being carried out alongside the Home Office and Counter-Terrorism Police on the publicly accessible location trails, which will lay important foundations for counter-terror work across the coming years. Chair, to me this report continues to demonstrate the strength of our partnership working in the county. There is much to admire and celebrate, and I'm happy to endorse the report.
Thank you. Is there any other members wishing to speak on the report? Can I ask Cabinet therefore to note the report, please?
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 7 is the Health and Wellbeing Board Annual Report 2022-23. Can I ask Jane Robinson, Corporate Director of Adult and Health Services, to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. The Health and Wellbeing Board's 8th annual report highlights some of the board's key achievements during 22-23, including fulfilling our statutory duties to publish a pharmaceutical needs assessment and produce a joint local health and wellbeing strategy. The Health and Wellbeing Board approved a 3-year pharmaceutical needs assessment in September 2022. The assessment considers the health needs of the population, the provision of pharmaceutical services and improvements that can support health needs, and whether there are any potential gaps in pharmaceutical service delivery over a 3-year period. The assessment is available online as part of Durham Insight. In March this year, the Health and Wellbeing Board agreed a new direction for the joint local health and wellbeing strategy, which will focus on the areas identified in the strategic needs and assets assessment, which have the biggest impact on local outcomes and health inequalities. Those are making smoking history, enabling healthy weight for all, improving mental health, resilience and well-being, and reducing alcohol health harms. Alongside tackling the wider determinants of health, these are the areas which will support the realisation of the Health and Wellbeing Board vision that County Durham is a healthy place where people live longer and live well. In terms of supporting work to reduce health inequalities, the Health and Wellbeing Board has continued to provide a coordinated approach to key health and wellbeing marketing campaigns to ensure clear messages on issues which impact on health inequalities which can be shared. For example, the Durham Move campaign, which promoted physical activities, targeting inactive populations and offering free one-to-one support appointments and signposting to leisure centres and community activities. Under the Starting Well priority, partners promoted the Healthy Start voucher scheme to highlight its benefits and increase awareness of the move from paper vouchers to a digitised system with a prepaid card. The Healthy Start scheme assists eligible parents financially to buy healthy foods, cow's milk, infant formula, and also provides free vitamins. The Health and Wellbeing Board scrutinised a review of the health impact assessment of the County Durham Plan to minimise any negative impacts of initiatives outlined within the plan, maximise positive impacts, as well as mitigating wherever possible any existing or future health inequalities. In terms of ensuring local needs are prioritised, the new integrated care system for the North East and North Cumbria was implemented from the 1st of July 2022. The Health and Wellbeing Board reviewed and provided feedback on the integrated care partnership strategy prior to its launch. The Health and Wellbeing Board has continued to champion the County Durham approach to wellbeing and its implementation to build the health and wellbeing of our local communities. This year's annual report brings to a close the previous joint health and wellbeing strategy, and some excellent work has been done to deliver against starting well, living well and ageing well during the year. The COVID-19 pandemic has stalled some of the progress made to improve health and wellbeing across the country and the county, and a focused effort across the partnership is required now as we move forward to bring about the change for our residents. Chair, the recommendations are set out at paragraph 4.
Thanks, Jane. Can I invite Councillor Chris Hood, Cabinet Portfolio Holder for Adult and Health Services, to move the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to present the Board's annual report for 2022 to 23, which outlines the achievements partners have made in the last year. Moving forwards from the pandemic, our ongoing activity in relation to COVID-19 is now incorporated into our wider health protection arrangements. A lot of work has been done to restore screening and immunisation programmes, and work continues to address areas where uptake is low. The Health and Wellbeing Board accepts that there are effective assurance processes in place for communicable disease control, strategic regulation intervention and emergency preparedness. Some key pieces of work have been undertaken this year to address those inequalities the pandemic has widened. Public health colleagues worked with the Armed Forces Forum on a veteran health needs assessment to identify and address the specific and wide-ranging needs which have an impact on the health of this group. The Ageing Well Health Needs Assessment has reviewed our approaches to promoting healthy and independent lives for the large and diverse population aged 50+. We continue to spread the message across the County Durham Partnership about the impact of wider social and economic factors on our health, influencing developments in housing, advising local businesses, and informing both economic and climate strategy. Our considered new approach for our joint local health and wellbeing strategy provides a clear structure to regain our momentum for health improvement. We will continue to strive to influence these wider determinants, as well as focusing work on those behavioural factors which have the biggest impact on our health outcomes. Finally, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Jane Robinson, Corporate Director of Adult and Health Services, Alan Patrickson, Corporate Director of Neighbourhoods and Climate Change, and Amanda Healy, Director of Public Health for Durham County Council, for all their hard work and commitment in producing such an important and valuable document for County Durham and its residents. I move the recommendations set out in the report.
Thanks, Chris. Can I invite Councillor Elizabeth Scott, Cabinet Portfolio Holder for Economies and Partnerships, to second the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to support the annual report for 22-23, which demonstrates the work of the Health and Wellbeing Board, which is now in its 10th year. It's particularly pleasing to see the role the board has taken in championing the approach to wellbeing and its implementation across the County Durham Partnership, especially seeing how the assets within our communities have been reflected now in our joint strategic needs and assets assessment. These assets are factors that build health and wellbeing and can be utilised to improve health outcomes. The Health and Wellbeing Board also commented on the draft Inclusive Economic Strategy. The board recognises the importance of tackling health-related barriers to economic activity which can impact on people's health and wellbeing. It's therefore important and good to note that health partners are involved in the strategy's delivery plan. The agreed approach for the new joint local health and wellbeing strategy will be positive for young people through embedding changes to behaviours which can so often be intergenerational and influencing wider factors which can impact on their development and future prospects. I second the recommendations as set out in the report.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the report? Okay, can we agree the report and its recommendations? Agreed. Okay, I can confirm the recommendations are agreed. Item 8 is the Durham Innovation District Akeley Head Strategic Employment Site, outline business case and procurement of a joint venture partner. Can I ask Amy Harhoff, Corporate Director of Regeneration, Economy and Growth, to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair, and another comprehensive title for you there as well. This report presents the outline business case for the proposed Durham Innovation District Strategic Employment Site at Akeley Heads, Durham City. The report also sets out the process for the procurement of a joint venture partner to deliver the site and release the area's full potential. This procurement process will result in the preparation of a full business case that will be presented to Cabinet for approval before the Council enters into any formal joint venture partnership agreement. Developing a strategic employment site at Akeley Heads has been a long-standing ambition for the Council. The development of Akeley Heads as a strategic employment site is intrinsically linked to the Council vacating County Hall. Cabinet approved the full business case for a HQ in 2018, which saw proposals taken forward for the construction of a new HQ on the Desands in Durham Riverside. Approval was also granted in 2018 to appoint consultants to prepare a master plan and progress the planning application for the Akeley Heads Strategic Employment Site. The planning application was submitted in 2020 and improved in 2021. The application provided outline consent for the site and plus a detailed consent for the building known as Plot C, as well as the approval of the demolition for County Hall. In May 2021, a full review of the Council's accommodation strategy was carried out, and this resulted in an alternative strategy being approved, which has resulted in the disposal of the building on the sands to Durham University, who are delivering a state-of-the-art business school on the Riverside. The Council has undertaken considerable research into key value-added activities at Akeley Head. This, along with the new business school, has created a broader opportunity for the Council to use Akeley Heads as a centre for an innovation district in Durham City. Innovation districts bring together entrepreneurs, researchers, investors and institutions to work together to collaborate and creating the conditions for business growth, clusters and agglomeration, which overall creates a higher productivity than a standard business park. Productivity is one of the core priorities of County Durham's 2022 Inclusive Economic Strategy, and indeed it is one of our county's greatest challenges and priorities to address. Akeley Heads is uniquely positioned to capitalise on these characteristics and serves as a driving force for Durham's future economic growth. Akeley Heads has the scope and scale to create an innovation district of regional, national and international significance. The Council and Durham University have worked collaboratively in recognition of the mutually beneficial role that this area can play for both the advancement of the university's capability and the county's economy as a whole. And a memorandum of understanding has been agreed, affirming the commitment between the partners to collaborate widely and explore options for partnership on a number of areas to support the growth of the county. The Council has set a vision and agreed its desired outcomes for the Durham Innovation District. In order to understand how the market might view Akeley Heads as an opportunity and gain a better appreciation of whether the Council's expectations and ambitions for the site are realistic, a structured soft market testing exercise was undertaken between 2022 and 2023. The exercise demonstrated significant market interest from developers, institutional investors and long-term develop and hold partners. A range of potential approaches to delivering the Durham Innovation District have been explored, and it has been concluded from the evidence that it will be best delivered and operated with the Council working in partnership with a strategic partner who brings the skills, networks and investment and expertise needed. By partnering, the Council will also retain a long-term influence in the Innovation District's activity and share in its future economic success. As a consequence, approval is sought to commence the process to secure a suitable joint venture delivery partner. The outline business case sets out the evidence for that decision based on the information available. The outcome of the market procurement process will be reported to Cabinet late in 2024, along with a full business case to inform the decision on whether to progress the proposal for a Durham Innovation District at Akeley Heads with a preferred partner. I would like to put on record my thanks to Susan Robinson for her leadership in this project and initiative, and colleagues Tony Foster and Bev Bantham. I would also like to thank partners Avison Young and Durham University for their support in developing this exciting proposition for County Durham. Chair, that concludes my report, and Cabinet is asked to approve the recommendations as set out in paragraphs 26 and paragraphs 27 of this report. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Can I invite Councillor Elizabeth Scott, Cabinet Portfolio Holder for Economy and Partnerships, to move the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. This report clearly sets out the case for the development of Akeley Heads site as part of a wider Durham Innovation District. It provides clear justification to commence procurement of a joint venture partner to form a joint venture partnership to develop the site as part of the Durham Innovation District. The vision, skills and hard work of the team behind bringing this report forward should not be underestimated, and I would like to thank everyone involved. The Council's regeneration strategy has historically recognised the need for a new central business district and how this could be realised through the redevelopment of Akeley Heads. The vision for Akeley Heads was to create a new and unique business location for the North East that maximised economic growth in County Durham and delivered new and better jobs in growing sectors in a high-quality employment location. Sites of the calibre of Akeley Heads are rarely available, and it presents a distinctive opportunity for investment. A master plan for Akeley Heads has been developed, and planning permission based on this master plan was obtained in January 2021. During the development of the master plan and securing planning permission, the economy has experienced some of the greatest economic shifts in a generation. Extensive research has been undertaken to fully understand the potential of Akeley Heads and the market's appetite to develop it. This research has clearly demonstrated the potential for Akeley Heads as a wider innovation district, along with the potential core sectors and specialisms that could be developed on site. The outline business case appended to this report sets out the proposed approach to the delivery of Akeley Heads, as well as fully defining the Akeley Heads proposition. By building on the existing partnership with Durham University, There is a clear potential for Akeley Heads to be developed as part of a Durham Innovation District which includes Milburn Gate and the new Durham University Business School, covering 62 hectares of land and connecting with the two further innovation hubs of Durham University campus to the south and Net Park 12 miles to the southeast. The unique characteristics of the Akeley Heads site allow it to be the driving force for County Durham's future economic growth. With a world-class university, existing elements of an innovation ecosystem and scope to scale up significantly and create an innovation district of regional, national and international significance that delivers huge benefits to the residents of Durham and the long-term economic prospects of the area. I therefore move the recommendations as set out at paragraph 26 and 27 of this report.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Can I invite Councillor Richard Bell, Deputy Leader and Cabinet Portfolio Holder for Finance, to second the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. The review of the Council's accommodation strategy in 2021 resulted in the Council moving forward with a revised strategy. This has resulted in the disposal of the building on the sands to Durham University, resulting in a net capital receipt to this Council of £70 million. With the disposal of the sands and the delivery of the alternative strategy, the Council will make an overall saving of around £22 million from the original strategy. This alternative strategy still allows the development at Akeley Heads as a strategic employment site and for Akeley Heads to form part of the Durham Innovation District. The report seeks authority to take Akeley Heads to the market to procure a joint venture partner. It sets out an outline business case for doing this, which is transparent in articulating any risks to the Council. This outline business case will be further developed into a full business case, which will be presented to the Cabinet prior to committing to a joint venture partner. The full business case will clearly set out any financial commitment the Council is being asked to make as part of the joint venture partnership. At this stage, authority is being sought to go to the market to attract a joint venture partner and no capital investment is being committed. The only financial commitment being made at this time is as part of the procurement exercise to support the development of the full business case, and this is clearly described within the report. Akeley Heads is a natural home for innovation and the knowledge-rich businesses needed to create high-quality jobs. It is perfectly placed to be the catalyst to develop and drive forward a Durham Innovation District and the significant opportunities that will result from this. For the reasons given, it is considered to be in the Council's and the wider public interest to pursue this option, and I second the recommendations set out at paragraphs 26 and 27 of the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Richard. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the report, please? Yep, Councillor Wilkes.
Thank you, Chair. Labour talked about regeneration of the Akeley Heads area, but had no real strategy. They built a massive HQ, wasting taxpayers' money in Durham instead. And as Councillor Bell says, we've sold that HQ and are saving tens of millions of pounds compared to Labour's HQ policy as a result. And we're ensuring that the university's business school can stay and prosper in the city, and that one of our best businesses can continue to expand and stay here too. Our plans for Akeley Heads to become a true innovation district will seamlessly connect Akeley Heads with the city. Our investment in the DLI and ensuring that we as a council are at the heart of this district helps to pump prime it too. When you consider the investment that we are making across the county, including at Net Park, our commitment to the combined authority and the investment that that will bring, and so much more, we are showing that we are getting on with the job of lifting our economy up after decades of underperformance, investing across the whole county. I applaud and support our plans to regenerate where Labour just waffled, and thank our officers for yet more positive hard work, and look forward to seeing a sustainable, internationally recognised innovation centre bringing high-value jobs to our county. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Mark. Does anyone else wish to speak to the report? Okay, can we agree the report and its recommendations? Agreed. Okay, I can confirm the recommendations are agreed. Item 9 is any other business. I haven't been advised of any other business, so I'd like to thank everyone for taking part this morning, for those members who've attended in person and the public and media who've watched online. That concludes the business for this meeting.